moneyed up buddy, the musky one, as president. And it got him triggered. And I was talking with my wife about this, and I said, watch what happens. And sure enough, he wrote a paragraphs long, more than that, tweet saying that, basically telling Elon to stand down and telling everybody I'm in charge and yada, yada, yada. He went on and on and on and on about, the catcalls that have been thrown out towards him regarding who's really in charge. And if he were truly in charge, he wouldn't have to say that. Or if he's truly going to be in charge as president-elect, he wouldn't have to say that. He would just be in charge. But to have to put a tweet out to say that it speaks to the fact that, and that he knows that people are saying it, one, but secondly, he's impacted by it because otherwise he would just let it go. The other thing about this, though, is this is the thing that I've been cautiously saying to folks, that, we go back to the comments that have been made about him in the past, is that, he sometimes acts like a caged animal. And if that's the case, a caged animal is dangerous. So as much as I recognize that there's some fun in the statement, we also have to recognize that a caged animal can do some stupid things and cause harm to people. And that's the part that that I've just been mindful of. And I'm still going to refer to him as the Orange Menace and the 34-time convicted felon and twice adjudicated rapist. But we Dems need to keep calling him out. We can't let up on that. Bless you, Devin. Let's go to George in Oak Park real quickly. George, you got something to say this morning. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Richard. The Democratic Party really has to institutionalize the response, the platform, the pedestal, whatever, into what the Republicans are doing, and institutionalize, concerted, coordinated response to whatever the Republicans are doing. And this is long overdue. And by that, I mean, this is overdue since the time of way back. It has to be, a good spokesperson would be Congressperson Jasmine Crockett. She's really great.
Come on, George. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
It has to be done.
I know.
And that's exactly correct. You know why? Because vulgarism is what really resonates with people of everybody in this country.
Yep.
They like to hear the dirt. It's something for them. It's spicy. And this is what the Democrats need to do. They really need to be almost rude, vulgar, something to that effect. I mean, the Democrats got a lot of high-paid consultants. They really need to know how to put this thing together.
George,
don't know.
You know what they need? Listen, and there's been a big conversation about this, and our good friend Stephanie Miller's talked about it. I've talked about it. Many others in the progressive conversation have talked about this. We need to stop paying these big moneyed consultants and talk to everyday cats like you who say, listen, just smack them, not literally, just hit them upside the head with it. And like you said, not rude, but right in their face. And it needs to be every single day. Democrats need to have I like the word you used, collective response. That's a perfect way to put it, George.
I'm still angry with Governor Pritzker letting Tom Homan come up to him and say that he sucks. And then I hear the same thing from Marjorie Taylor Greene about some poster being that you suck. Well, Here's my response to Donald Trump, to Peon, Muskoil, to Ravik, Romney Swampy, and to Mickey Mouse Johnson, and to everybody else on down. You all suck.
George, send me those quips that you made of the names. Email that to me because I want to make a little. I might make a little meme out of that. Email those to me at richard@WCPT820.com to remind me because I want to have those in my little lexicon of things to say. Okay.
Will do.
All right, George. Have a great day and thanks for calling. Happy holidays, my man. He makes a good point, guys. What George said about I wrote that down. Collective response. I've said it differently, but at the end of the day, it's the same, kind of thing. A collective response, and it needs to be regular, and it needs to be forceful, and it needs to be unapologetic. It has to be. It has to be, guys. Listen. They got enough tools, and they have enough folks that there can be a response, if not every day of the 20 business days, typically of a month. There needs to be something every other day. Because we cannot count on mainstream media to deliver that message. And so when we come back, we're going to be talking with Steve Lawson about what he's doing in Michigan with Michigan Families for Fair Care. And then I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in the back end of that segment. 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News Minute.
I see this as it's how many billionaires can pick the pockets of how many ordinary working Americans.
That's Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts, speaking recently on MSNBC about the Republican agenda that Donald Trump and his GOP allies in the Senate and the House are planning to enact when they take control of the government in January.
The somebody who will get rich whispers in Donald Trump's ear. And that's the problem we've got all around. Billionaires whispering in Donald Trump's ear, saying things that just maybe are going to help those billionaires get even richer. That's how this one is shaping up. Republicans have always been about helping the rich get richer, but this is like on steroids, rich getting richer.
For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
Whether you get pulled over or get into a crash, drinking and driving will change your whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley.
An arraignment this morning for Luigi Mangione. The AP's Julie Walker reports.
Luigi Mangione awaiting a Monday arraignment in New York on a state charge of murder as an act of terrorism for killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He's also facing federal charges that could carry the death penalty. The 26-year-old was returned to the city Thursday in shackles and an orange jumpsuit, surrounded by heavily armed police. Mayor Eric Adams.
This act of terrorism and the violence that stems from it is something that would not be tolerated.
Prosecutors cited entries in Mangione's notebook as evidence. The target is insurance because it checks every box. Julie Walker, New York.
President Biden is commuting the sentences of most of the inmates on federal death row. Those sentences will now be life without parole. The president says the death penalty should not be a punishment the federal government uses. President-elect Trump's comments about the Panama Canal are drawing fire from Panama's president. The AP's Donna Warder.
In a speech in Phoenix on Sunday, President-elect Donald Trump suggested that his new administration could try to regain control of the Panama Canal, saying the United States foolishly ceded it, and that the U.S. is now paying ridiculous, highly unfair fees to use it.
This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop. It's going to stop.
Panamanian President Jose Raul Mulino says the Panama Canal is Panama's. Every square meter of the Panama Canal and its surroundings belongs to Panama and will continue to belong to Panama. I'm Donna Warder.
Air travel's expected to shatter the record this holiday season, but most of us are traveling by car. This is AP News. The IRS is sending money to some taxpayers, but don't get your hopes up yet.
About 1 million taxpayers will automatically receive special payments of up to $1,400 from the IRS in the coming weeks. The money will be directly deposited into eligible people's bank accounts or sent in the mail by a paper check. Most people shouldn't get their hopes up, though, about receiving the cash. The IRS says it's distributing about $2.4 billion to taxpayers who failed to claim a recovery rebate credit on their 2021 tax returns after missing one of the COVID stimulus payments or receiving less than the full amount. The IRS says most taxpayers eligible for the federal stimulus payments receive them. I'm Shelley Adler.
Lawmakers in Washington are seeking to ban new sales of Chinese-made drones, arguing they could be used to spy on Americans. I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, cloudy skies, a slight chance for some drizzle, could mix with some patchy freezing drizzle early on with highs in the upper 30s. For tonight, cloud cover, a low of 31. For your Christmas Eve day Tuesday, cloudy but dry weather conditions with high temperatures reaching up to 40. For Christmas Day itself, a chance for some rain showers developing, low 40s. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 35 degrees.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pegol is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by Estella's Pharma.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the second hour of Choose Views on this Monday, December 23rd, 2024. And as you guys have heard me say for weeks now, certainly right before the election and most definitely since the election, one of the key things that's important to us all moving forward as a united front, and I love the wording that George gave us in terms of collective response and collective messaging. I've also been talking about the importance of local involvement. And our guest today, we've had on before, is one of those people that's making sure that on a local level that we are taking care of the folks that are close to us. And we have with us this morning Steve Lawson, once again, from the Michigan Families for Fair Care. Good morning, Steve, and welcome to Choose Views.
Oh, good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely, absolutely. How's your holiday season going?
It's going pretty well. We did some really good work this weekend. I'm really excited to talk about. How are you doing? I'm impressed you're still working 2 days before Christmas. You haven't called in the guest host or run the clip show yet?
No, man. I'm actually doing it. Thank you for saying that, first of all. And I love my show. I guess I like the work that you do. I feel I love my show. I love being able to reach out to folks, and I love that we have the ability to partner with someone like yourself who's putting in the work for people. So, hey, man, we're doing what we do. You said you got a lot done this weekend. Tell me what's happening. What were you working on? I know we've got some things we want to cover, but what was it this weekend that you guys were involved in?
So Saturday, we co-sponsored a charity basketball game. This was put together by our friend, State Representative Donovan McKinney, whose name has been coming up because he does a lot of great work in his community in Warren and Detroit. But this brought in some local celebrities, some elected officials. Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist played in the game. We sold tickets, or people were able to bring a toy to donate to Toys for Tots. We ended up raising, I believe, $3,500 and collecting 2,500 toys that were donated to an organization called Macomb Foster Closet that makes toys available for foster families who might be struggling right now. So that was some really great work that State Rep McKinney and a number of others were able to put together that event.
That's great. Yeah, he's definitely. I've been following him on social media. I've followed him literally, and I've been following his work. And he's a rising star. And so I'm glad that you guys are able to partner and work together. And the lieutenant governor is. I had the phenomenal opportunity to interview him briefly during the DNC, and got a couple pictures with him. What a great guy and a good partner with Governor Whitmer. So. Kudos to you guys for being able to kind of put that all together. So listen, you're in the middle, or you have been since the beginning of November, ACA time. How is that going for you guys and the work that you're doing with your organization?
Pretty good. We have some concerns about the future, but for now, Joe Biden is a good partner in the White House, and has really expanded. Under Donald Trump in Republican rule, the outreach budget for the Affordable Care Act promotion of open enrollment was cut back dramatically, and the amount of time that people were given to sign up for insurance coverage was cut down. Thankfully, under President Biden, that was re-expanded. So people have until January 15th to get enrolled. So that deadline is starting to creep up. If you're out there and you've been procrastinating, now's the time to go get signed up for insurance coverage for next year so you don't have a gap. But, we are coming to a fork in the road here next year in terms of whether Congress is going to extend the added premium supports that were put in place that's made health insurance on these exchanges much cheaper, or whether they're going to let it lapse and have the cost of health insurance go up by potentially hundreds of dollars a month on families.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about that is, with those premium tax credits set to expire next year, where do you think that money will be reallocated to? I know that you don't know the answer, but that's why I'm saying, where do you think that those credits will be reallocated to?
Well, I think we have seen from the news coverage that the priority for Republicans in Congress, including Congressman John James from Macomb County, is extending the Trump tax scam, more tax cuts for the rich, more tax cuts for corporations. When, Donald Trump swooped in at the 11th hour last week and tried to blow up the budget deal that was in place. He did it because he wanted to get the debt ceiling waived for his entire presidency, and I think that's because he knows he plans on passing another tax cut for the wealthy and for corporations, and that's going to cost a lot of money and run up a lot of debt, and he wants an unlimited credit card for that. So that's what I see the choice Congress is coming to this next year. It's kind of a fork in the road, and one path is affordable health insurance for middle-class families, and the other is tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. And unfortunately, we've kind of seen that Republicans, John James included, have always chosen the tax cuts for the rich and corporations path in the past. And I think we have every reason to think that that's their plan this time again.
Well, it seems as though, as I've followed him to the extent that I've been able to, and you guys should know this. He's what's his district? Is it District 8 or no? No, I think
it's the Michigan 10th now. Yeah, it's confusing because these numbers all changed redistricting 2 years ago. It's the Michigan 10th, which is most of Macomb County and then Rochester and Rochester Hills from Oakland County. The suburbs just north of Detroit.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, he's really bowed down to special interests. He's really not had a spine to, and this is before, Elon Musk has entered the conversation, but he's bowed down to the special interests that don't impact his district in any positive way. I mean, that's been your observation, right?
Yeah, I mean, when Trump came out against the government funding deal, within about an hour, you had kind of a bizarrely shot video from Congressman James jumping on board with opposing the resolution. And obviously that got worked out. There was a lot of backroom dealing that happened with it. Somehow they ended up, my understanding is, stripping out funding for pediatric cancer research. These are the things about Congress that I guess nobody can explain how that's the first priority to cut out of the funding deal. But we narrowly averted a government shutdown. But yeah, the Donald Trump chaos of governing is back already, and he's not even president again yet.
Yeah, Steve, so tell people a little bit again about Michigan Families for Fair Care and what it is that you guys have been doing and have done so well. I want our listeners across the country to know a little bit more about what you guys are doing specifically with your organization.
So, a lot of what we are doing is trying to show the real impact of these federal policies. Try to put the human face on it. When we have John James talking about, cutting funding for the Affordable Care Act or, prioritizing cutting taxes for the wealthy and corporations, what's the impact of that? And when we, sponsor events like this basketball game in Warren, that's the gap we're trying to fill. The people who are getting left behind in places like Warren, Michigan, and Macomb County, that's the gap we are trying to fill along with other elected officials, stepping in to try to give away turkeys at Thanksgiving so that people have Thanksgiving dinner and, make sure that foster kids have presents for Christmas. We're trying to fill that gap for people who are potentially being left behind by our government.
So with an organization like that, and you may or may not have heard me speak to this, but I'll mention it now to kind of give you a little bit of a tee up of a question. Explain in your experience why local organizations like Michigan Families for Fair Care are so important, not just to your immediate area, but why they have greater impact, obviously on the state of Michigan, but the region in general. Why are local organizations so important right now where we are and where we're about to head?
Yeah, I think the reason people should get involved locally is because these local organizations are actually doing the work. It's not just, unfortunately, some organizations out there are raising money and not putting it into their communities. Like organizations like Macomb Foster Closet are doing work with people, in your own backyard. And that, makes a huge difference in people's lives. And I think, the idea of acting locally is important, especially in, what could be some very hard economic times we have coming here. If, Donald Trump, supported by John James, is going to, is going to increase tariffs on Canadian products, that's going to be really tough for the state of Michigan, where we, use Canadian oil in our gasoline. We could have gas costs going up. We could have the cost of heating going up for people's homes right in the middle of winter. We might have some tough times ahead, and we're going to need to stick together to get through them.
What are some of the key groups or groups that you've noted, or maybe you guys are focusing in on, that are going to be we had a caller earlier in the show from here in Chicago that said she was concerned about certain groups being impacted by this upcoming administration and Republican-led Congress. What groups are you guys, if at all, focusing on that are, at the top of your list that you're most concerned about?
Some of the groups that were part of the basketball game this weekend, we had the United Way there, we had Families Against Narcotics, Mothering Justice. Those were all great partners. But, in terms of, if you're asking who could be impacted, I think like any, working people here in Michigan. If you look at Macomb County, John James's district, it's, working class people. Macomb County, it's the heart of the auto industry. I think the auto industry is very much in danger of, some of the idea of raising, tariffs on Canadian products. So much of that, the auto industry is integrated between Ontario and Detroit. We could be facing really economic disaster here in Michigan if we're going to get into a trade war with Canada of all countries.
Yeah, especially they're not just. They're our neighbor to the north for all of our country, but states like Michigan that are literally border states with the country of Canada. I know exactly what you're talking about, Steve.
We have so many auto workers in Macomb County whose jobs are in, that supply line is so integrated from Ontario straight through to Detroit. We have thousands and thousands of people whose jobs are counting on, that trade. And if we're suddenly having to pay a 25% tariff on cars, that's going to be a big problem for people who need a car to get to work in Michigan.
Yeah. And so to that end, with regard to being a neighbor of Canada. We're a skip. I call us we're a skip state in Illinois because we get Indiana between here and Michigan in terms of the state borders. But we're your neighbor, and I wanted to know this, and I've been meaning to ask this question of you in the past. What other organizations are you sort of dotted line connected with, let's say in Ohio or in Indiana or in Michigan, that are doing a version of Michigan Families for Care? Are you able to kind of shoulder up with other groups to either share in resources and ideas, et cetera?
There's a lot of other groups who are doing really good work around here. Mothering Justice has been a great partner for us. They really focus specifically on women, mothers. Their staff are all mothers and people who've kind of seen up close, the impact that government policies can have on mothers, lack of support that the state and federal government sometimes have for mothers. They've been a great partner. For Our Future is a great organization that's been working with us. It's been a team effort, and like you say, it's going to have to continue to be in this year to come.
What are your with those organizations? Are they state funded? Or do they receive any federal grants or support? That you know
no,
of?
I believe they're all privately funded.
Oh, privately funded. Okay, got it. So speaking of that, in terms of funding, and we just avoided, whatever, yet another government shutdown. And it seems as though this conversation always heightens itself when we have a Republican-led Congress, or at least the Republican House of Representatives. That's essentially a do-nothing part of that branch of the government. Instead of, as you said, instead of governing, Republicans are playing political games right now. And we got through this, fortunately, because we had, enough Democrats vote in a direction that makes sense. But if we get into the next political cycle, do you think that Republicans are going to act any differently, given that they still have this slight majority in the House of Representatives?
No, I think when you see their priority being that they have to cut taxes for the wealthy and corporations at all costs, that they have to, either repeal the Affordable Care Act or slash funding for it, those, understandably, I think are not priorities that Democrats are going to get behind. And you have different wings of the party, but you have a very extreme wing of their party that tends to vote no on everything. So they really struggle to even get their own votes together, even when they needed to do something basic like keep the government running, keep people going to work. And and then you have people like John James, who as soon as Donald Trump, put out the call that he wanted to oppose the government funding deal, John James was instantly on board with it. So, I think we are going to continue to have episodes like this throughout the Trump presidency.
What do you think as we kind of wrap up? And I so appreciate you being with us, and we'll definitely have you again on this, because this is going to be something that guys like you and me are going to have to fight forward and lead. What are some of the tools that the Democratic leadership on a national level and even on a state level are going to have to implement as part of our defense, or one of my callers said earlier, collective response? What do you think are some of the tools that they've got to put in place or use?
I think it's just making sure people understand, what we're actually talking about here. How many people are actually aware that the Affordable Care Act premiums went down because of Biden and the Democratic Congress, because of what they did in 2021? And I think barely anyone in the entire country is aware that that premium support is going to expire. So if people's health insurance is suddenly hundreds or thousands of dollars more expensive, at the end, in going into 2026, people really need to know why, and making sure that the stakes of that policy fight are very clear, rather than, this sometimes gets fuzzy and abstract when we start talking about continuing resolutions and, budget deadlines, making very clear exactly what we're doing. We're talking about health insurance becoming more expensive for working families, making sure people really understand, why that would happen and who would be responsible.
Yeah, and that's one of the callers earlier. Again, I've said this before: collective response. The collective response has got to be there, and I think that the Democratic leadership, and again, I refer to Democratic leadership as local as well as regional and national. We have to have a collective response. We have to have a collective message. I think one of the challenges may be, Stephen, I'm sure you have some comments on this, is who is going to be the voice, or who are going to be the voices that are going to talk about and illustrate the carnage that the Republicans are at the helm of. Who is going to be that voice, or where are those voices going to come from? I'm not sure where you are in that, but it's definitely got to happen. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, when we always try to, turn the spotlight on real people with real experiences. That's always, my preference is trying to find people who, have actually experienced, the impact of these policies, whether it's, the increased cost of health care, whether it's the cost of prescription drugs, cost of health insurance. We always want to center the voices of real people, not politicians, people who have actually had to experience, what the real impact of these policies is.
So as we wrap up, let folks know, I've been saying this for weeks now, get involved, everybody. Find a group that you can get involved with. It doesn't matter if they're across the country or if they're right in your backyard. But to Steve's point, local is going to be one of our abilities to plant a flag and say we're going to get stuff done for people that are right here. So obviously, Steve, take a moment and let folks know from wherever they are in the country how they can get involved. If it's nothing other than a phone call to you to see how people can help, let our listeners know how they can get more involved with Michigan Families for Fair Care.
Go to our website, MichiganFamiliesForFairCare.org, or find us on Facebook. Our Michigan Families for Fair Care page is active.
What other areas can people get involved?
We are looking for people who can tell stories. We're looking for people who can be in ads. We're looking for people who can come and attend our events, write letters to their congressman, whatever they're interested in helping with.
Absolutely. That's great. It's good to hear your voice, man. I'm glad you're doing well, and kudos on a great event this weekend. Nice to get the lieutenant governor out there and Donovan and his work that he's doing. So I appreciate you, Steve, and so many people need to get involved with local, and I hope that we can continue to have you on the show in the months to come.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Steve. Be well. We'll talk with you soon. Bye now. All right, Devin, it's always good to have Steve on with us. Excuse me, guys. Devin is sneezing and I'm coughing, clearing my throat. Sorry about that, guys. Steve Lawson from Michigan Families for Fair Care. And what he said toward the end there in terms of, whether you're someone that can write letters, someone that can, call into the organization, that's what I've been talking about the last few weeks. The local stuff is important, and the local leaders and elected officials in any state. And let me say this before we go to this break. The reason that I, for lack of better words, just keep drilling down on local is because it's groups like that. You heard, I'm so sorry, guys. You heard Steve say it best. The local organizations and the people that are affected by those, by the local organizations and the work that they do, the reason that it's so important is it's probably somebody that's impacted by that work. And when he talked about the ACA, that's a federal program that's allocated and implemented on a state level. So you got to look at both at the same time. What I mean by both at the same time is the local impact of federal policies and the federal impact of local involvement and local policies. One goes up, one goes down, or one goes left, one goes right. They impact each other. There's a balancing act. I believe that the more we put into getting local activity, local organizations, giving them our support, the better we are at impacting federal policy. And what he talked about, he referenced Representative John James a number of times because he knows that that's a representative there in the state of Michigan, that his decisions to not stand up to Trump or to any of the big money folks that he's dealing with in Washington, he knows that John James's inability or lack of willingness to do that impacts folks right down the street in his district in Macomb County. And a good example, another way of looking at that is our good friend Kurt Herner in Ohio talks about the local impacts of decisions all the time. And that's why I think we have to really embrace sort of this two-pronged attack. Yes, we know what's happening on a federal level, but at the same time, our local officials are going to be one of our biggest allies, and our local organizations as well. I don't want to leave that out. And I'm going to continue to talk about that, and we're going to continue to have guests on that have a local voice, because those organizations many times are the recipients of federal funding, federal grants, and the list goes on. And not just the big programs in terms of health care and tax policy, but just microfunding. So bless you, Devin. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll grab a couple of your calls. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for about $10 a month with no annual contract? It's possible with Whole Home Connect, your internet superstore. The internet's grown up over the years. There used to be maybe one provider. Now you have multiple choices that you may not even be aware of. Whole Home Connect can help you. With one phone call, they will show you the best internet deals available in your neighborhood. And yes, we have deals as low as $10 a month, with no annual contracts. Whole Home Connect is your one-stop discount store for all your internet needs. It's time to upgrade your internet plan and save money. Call right now for a free quote and to learn about internet plans starting at $10 a month with no contracts.
Call now, 800-257-5168. 800-257-5168. Call right now, 800-257-5168. Again, that's 800-257-5168.
Have you heard? Affordable healthcare is better than ever. And right now there are more carriers and plans to choose from. If you're between 18 and 64 years old with a household income of $25,000 or less, this message is for you. Right now the government's Affordable Care Act is available for individual and family health coverage plans with little or no cost to you. Don't gamble with your health. Call Healthcare for All at 800-264-0899. That's 800-264-0899.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, cloudy skies, a slight chance for some drizzle, could mix with some patchy freezing drizzle early on with highs in the upper 30s. For tonight, cloud cover, a low of 31. For your Christmas Eve day Tuesday, cloudy but dry weather conditions with high temperatures reaching up to 40. For Christmas Day itself, a chance for some rain showers developing, low 40s. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 35 degrees.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Because facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Today, 2 to 5 p.m., North Central College professor William Muck will be filling in for Joan Esposito, and he'll be taking your calls and talking to Carl Heinrich Knudsen, professor of political science at the University of Oslo and co-project investigator of Varieties for Democracy. The conversation will focus on global trends in democracy and, in particular, democratic decline in the U.S. Karen Hoffman will call in for a conversation as well. She is the associate director of the Les Aspen Center and will discuss the relationship between the president and the media. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. here Central Time on WCPT 820. Tonight, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest host Tamale Sepp, and they will talk about we'll talk to Mobile Advantage driving owner Dennis Satino and his wife, retired nurse Cynthia Belmonte. Their driving instructors are certified to work with people with disabilities and provide behind-the-wheel evaluation and training. That's really cool. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays, 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, that's Central Time, and 820 WCPT. Yes, by all means, catch my podcast, the 2 different versions, the full episodes and the featured interviews. You can subscribe to one or both. The podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just search for Choose Views with Richard Chew, or get the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. There you go. All right, guys. Let's grab a quick call, Devin, and then we're going to hit them with a few clips. Let's go to David in San Francisco, California. What's going on, man?
Oh, hey, morning, Richard. Yeah, we made it through solstice. So happy Waldo.
Yes, we did. That was Saturday, right?
Yeah, Saturday night.
The shortest day of the year.
Well, what I was calling about, you had your previous guest there, and I was just going to raise the simple issue of duty to care. That a lawyer, you go to a lawyer, he's supposed to work for you. That's duty to care. A doctor is supposed to work for you. Duty to care. And the insurance companies have got to have a duty to care. And, this whole idea that they can decide that you can live or die based upon them saving a buck is not duty to care.
No, it's not. It's not even close. And that's where, with regard to healthcare, that's where one of the big conversation pieces has been. And Bernie Sanders has leaned into this, and many others have as well. The problem with our healthcare system being a for-profit healthcare system, and that it's what we have right now. However, it needs to be drastically changed because healthcare should be a right of all U.S. citizens. There should be no debate over that any longer. The right to care should be welded in, whatever you want to call it, to that part of our society when it comes to health care. And we've failed the country in that space. There's no, Devin and I were talking about this during one of the breaks earlier. Killing a CEO over health care mismanagement, or killing any CEO over any mismanagement is unacceptable. But you kind of understand how a person or a mindset can go down that path when we've got a system that's so dysfunctional.
Well, it even defies Hippocrates. If you look up the original Hippocratic Oath, he clearly says, if a patient comes to you, you are to heal them first and deal with money later. Heal first, money later. And if you get to see Michael Moore's movie Sicko, it's got a passage in there where Richard Nixon is trying to change the Hippocratic Oath and take that out of there. And that way the bureaucrats, the patient no longer comes to you as the doctor. The patients go to a bureaucrat first.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem is. And this stems right back to Richard Nixon. Watch the Sicko. It's got the passage in there. It's got like black and white photographs of Nixon hunching over planning on this. And as far as I'm concerned, they're going out of their way to kill the baby boom. They've done it for other generations, too. They wanted to kill World War II. I mean, these guys are fascists, and they want to kill the witnesses to World War II. So, don't underestimate, that these corporations have no desire to have us live. They, selling us stuff that'll give us diabetes, getting a free advertising to, Pepsi your life and you're going to poison yourself. The diabetes. When I was a kid, diabetes was 1 in 200 people. Now it's 1 in 3. These people they're selling crap to us and then having us enjoy the dance and song while they're advertising it. It's sick. And, anyway, it's the old Hippocratic Oath. This has been going around for centuries.
Yeah, and that's going back to what you said about our food, or the advertisement of food and products and all that. There's a reckoning. And, when we look at the number of people that have mental issues that are tied to poor health or poor dietary concerns, you can draw a nice dotted line to the way in which food is marketed to all of Americans, and it is kind of shameful. But David, I appreciate your point and giving us a little bit of an associate's degree this morning on the Hippocratic Oath and the implementation of Hippocratic conversations with care. So thank you for that, and happy holidays to you, as always.
Yeah, happy Christmas. And I'll get all radical and say happy holidays.
Right, you're gonna frustrate some people because you didn't say Merry Christmas. Yeah, I hear you, man. I do.
Happy Christmas. Didn't I say Happy Christmas? Oh, it's required by law, Mary. What's this?
Oh, that's crazy.
Hey, and everybody in Chicago too.
That's right. Thanks, David. Be well. Stay safe out there. Appreciate your call. Have a good day. All right. Bye now. Oh, he's a funny guy, and he's still in the fight. David's been out there for a minute, and I appreciate the fact that he's still in the fight and still bringing us information and content. And that's what we have to do: collective and simultaneous response to the craziness. Going to give a couple just commentary, I guess you could say, here in Chicago. As I talk about local things, I don't want to miss this. Many of you who follow our local politics and local things that are happening here in Chicago, the Board of Education over the weekend did decide with a unanimous vote to fire CPS CEO Pedro Martinez. And that happened on Friday, and that's definitely going to clear the way for Mayor Johnson to have a new leader for what is, by all measure, the fourth largest school system in the country. So that'll be an interesting bit of work to see what the mayor's going to do in that space. And meanwhile, the Chicago Board of Education also voted to absorb 5 of the Acero schools, which are schools that are inside of the charter school program. In a 6-0 vote, the board passed a resolution ordering the CPS to fund a bailout that will allow the charter operator to keep all 7 of its locations open next year. So, all right, not perfect, but the city is trying to make moves to improve our educational system, which is part of what we vote for them to do. And hopefully these are changes that are going to move the city in a better direction when it comes to our education. It's a hot topic, and it's one that the mayor's he's got to keep leaning into on. And I know that a lot of people have complained about how he's handled some things, and I haven't agreed 1,000% in how he's handled certain things, particularly with the budget. But he's not sitting on his laurels. He's not doing anything. And he's making, and I don't want to give that as a bailout statement, because I know some people go, well, we could do better. I've been the first to say that. Yes. And with the CPS scenario, that's a good move that the board made, because we need to move off of that. We were stuck on stupid, frankly. And next year, my hope is that not only the mayor of the city of Chicago, but also city council will figure out a way to stop just fighting about it, but move things in the right direction in 3 particular areas for me: public safety, education, and the city's budget. And they all work together. And so my fingers are crossed, and I'm going to be speaking to that a lot next year, because we're going to be coming up on, a couple years into his mayorship, I guess you could call it, and to really be measuring what's going to happen next. So just wanted to let you guys know about that if you hadn't caught that one in the news. All right, before we go to this break, there's a clip from a gentleman in Pennsylvania, and I wanted to play this earlier when Stephen was on talking about local things and local Midwestern things particularly. This gentleman in Pennsylvania, there's a couple of expletives that Devin was able to clean up, but the message that he sends is something that everybody needs to hear.
I lived here all my life, and I see the winter. We don't have winter anymore here. I mean, we used to be able. The roads used to be impassable when I was a kid growing up here. The snowstorms were so violent, it was crazy. And now we get nothing. So there's, people don't believe in climate change. Well, what the hell happened to winter in the middle of Pennsylvania? This was all Democratic. They used to have big Democratic rallies here back in this town. It used to have 5,000-6,000 people in the coal mines and stuff, and it was all labor, you know. Everything's closed, everything's gone. I mean, I have customers in here that hate me because I don't love Trump. And I see violence coming down the road. I mean, people are really brainwashed by this. It's crazy. Most of them are uneducated and really don't care about it. You know, they hear somebody preaching bull and they fall for it, and just like drug addicts. Like, hey, try this stuff, make you really feel good. Like, I never went to college, but I'm not, you know, that naive to believe in this horse.
Okay. Expletives in or out. The point he makes is that, you know, a couple things that he presented. He's talking about climate change. It's real. He made it clear. We know that it is, particularly those of us in the upper Midwest. But those who live in coastal states, you should know it too. And, you know, a handful of them are blue in terms of the southeastern states. I'm sorry, red. Apologize for that. I meant to say that a handful of them are red. Southeastern coastal states. The Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana for certain. Coastal change is a real thing, as is climate change. They go hand in hand. As he talked about in Pennsylvania, they've been dealing with that for a long time and seeing that massive change of labor. The Republicans have been at the tip of the spear of making that a problem for the country. They have not been in favor or the partner of the middle class working America. They just haven't been. They've talked a good game, but they haven't really been there. And Democrats, in some ways, lost their way in this space, but they've still remained the real voice for the working class communities. He talked about the fact that he, you know, wasn't college educated, but he wasn't stupid. I love that, right? That's a great clip in and of itself. You know, he's not college educated, but I'm not stupid enough to believe this, you know, this malarkey. And that a lot of people have become susceptible or just willing to accept it. So as we talk about local items and local voices, this gentleman from Pennsylvania speaks to it from his history there and recognizing what's happened and what's happening and how we have to be ready to stand in the void to fight it back. So I wanted you guys to hear that clip in the context of what we should be focusing on and thinking about when it comes to local issues. Quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Hey there, it's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute. My savings tip for today is about meal planning. I know you've heard of it, but let's talk about it. Meal planning will save you money, it reduces impulse purchases, it helps you not waste food, and it may be the very best thing you can do to cut back on your weekly spending. It also helps cut back the number of arguments we have in my house about what's for dinner. A writer of a recent Reader's Digest article said that she saved herself $500 a month on meal planning. I mean, we all eat differently, but those are some real savings. I know, meal planning can be a pain. So I reward myself with a treat while I plan. A beer, some ice cream, maybe a recipe magazine. And in my house, the planner does not have to be the shopper. That's real motivation. For more everyday money tips, check out workmoney.org. Till next time, this is Carrie Joy saying, take good care.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. As we wrap up, I missed some of the text earlier. This will be interesting, Devin. Someone text saying that that they I understood the plight of black farmers. I don't think I said I understood the plight of black farmers literally. I think I said, and we'll have to look at I believe what I was saying is that I understand that that black farmers are a big part of farming, and that the stereotypical, if I said it correctly, that if there's a stereotype of white folks in America, or a part of white society, is that that it's a white farmer. You get that image of the guy with a hat on, or a Nike hat, or I said Carhartt or whatever. It's a stereotypical view of what a farmer looks like in America. It's not just white guys. It's also black men and other communities. But anyhow, sometimes people like to abbreviate what they send in and what they call in because it suits their narrative. My conversation was about the farming bill and the money that went to farmers. So there you go. In any event, stay tuned, obviously, for our progressive lineup, which includes the Stephanie Miller Show, my radio sister on the West Coast, Tom Hartman Show, the professor of everything progressive, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, and Patty Vasquez driving you home. There you go, guys. Excuse me. Here is a clip that will possibly blow you away, but maybe not. And it's a clip that I found on the impact of AI in asking a question about America.
If you were evil and wanted to destroy America, how would you do it?
If I wanted to destroy America, 1, divide society, encourage division across political, racial, and ideological lines, amplifying conflicts that create distrust and weaken national unity. 2, weaken education, gradually lower standards and shift focus away from critical thinking, creating a population that's more easily influenced and less informed. 3, damage public health, promote widespread use of unhealthy foods, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals, leading to chronic illness and dependency. 4, break community bonds, undermine family and community structures by fostering isolation and individualism over collective support. 5, control the narrative, limit free speech and censor alternative viewpoints, creating a culture where people fear speaking openly. This would erode resilience, leaving the nation open to influence and control.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question is, if you were evil. This is I think it's a great clip to highlight, how AI has, I guess you could say its role in the conversation, I guess is a way of putting it, but broadening it out to where we are, as he says at the tail end. Does it sound familiar? Yeah, it does sound familiar as to where we are and where we're unfortunately going to be headed in many ways. And whether it's AI or if it's just common sense, we're definitely there. So we want to use all of our resources, as Steve said earlier, to make sure that the impact is felt less by those who are going to be in most, the most amount of potential pain and harm from this upcoming administration. Don't be fooled, guys, when I say this. What I want you to understand, please believe this, is that the local impact, even though we talk about the national impact of this upcoming administration, the local impact is also going to be there. So we want to make sure that we are supporting our local officials and encouraging them to do the best job that they can. And no matter what state you're in, if you're in California, if you're in New Mexico, you're here in Illinois, you're in New York, you're in Florida, getting involved. And I will tell you this too. This is something that was sent to me a couple of days ago from a couple of people who are in red states that said that one of them being Texas, that they're already seeing some impacts of things that are going to be part of the future with this upcoming administration. It's important for the red states to definitely get more involved for people in red states. Let me clear that up. To definitely be involved in local issues, because if you're in a red state now and you already are dealing with this garbage type of governorship in the form of Greg Abbott or in the form of Ron DeSantis, just to name those two top names, but there's other red states that have red governors that are just salivating at the opportunity of cutting benefits for people in their own state, of which let's call it 60-40 40% of the people in those red states are going to be 40% of the people in those red states that voted for against that governor are going to be the ones hurt, but the other 60% are going to be hurt as well. And that's what President Biden was trying to say about why he didn't care, doesn't care. It's about helping all Americans. But as I'm making the point about local states' involvement and you're being involved in your local activities, yeah, if you're in a red state, you definitely got a little bit more hell coming your way proportionately than those of us in blue states, which is why I'm encouraging you to make sure you are involved if you're particularly in a red state or in a red district, as we were talking about with Steve Lawson. So lean into that, guys. Don't fall asleep on, being in a red state and just, having to take all the garbage that comes your way. Your opportunities are there as well to take up to take up a role with a group that's doing things like Michigan Families for Fair Care are doing. Find an organization in your red state that's similar to that or is involved in what's the other one, working justice, that can give you some empowerment, can give you something to do that will hopefully move you away from having to be constantly in turmoil and constantly upset. I mean, and I know that this may sound esoteric to some, but the involvement is going to be the thing that's going to make you, I think, it's going to give you something to be a part of. And I've said this a number of times, and it's going to be said many more times in the future. You don't want to let yourself be isolated. And by getting involved with an organization that's doing local work, you will feel less isolated. And when you volunteer with that group on your particular day or days of the week, and then you leave that organization, you'll at least know that you've got something to come back to the next time you volunteer. And it's going to be empowering. And maybe right now you don't think you're not thinking about it so readily, but that's going to be empowering as you go forward. It's going to give you a sense of being connected. And I can't overstate it, guys. Their only social superpower or power will be to try to divide us. Okay? Let's be honest. People in blue states and blue people in red states that are working, that have jobs and have careers and are doing good things, you know how to organize. You know how to be a part of something. And the people who are in blue states and that are in red states that don't have those opportunities, that may not be working in the capacity that they want to, still have opportunities. And one of the fastest ways to broaden those opportunities is to connect with other people that are part of the community. And that's why I'm saying that the only real power that the MAGA crazy voters have is to try to distract and to pull us apart. That's really their only power. They don't have any policies the policies that could get implemented are going to be destructive, but they don't have any inherent power over us. And if you hear my words and try to act on them and try to be active and try to get involved, you will find that there's a lot of talk, but there's not a lot of action. And I believe that that's where you're going to find that this fight, although it's going to be difficult and tough, it's a fight that we can win. And we don't start a year from now. We start right now. So believe me when I say that. And if there's anything you can believe from me in this space, that is this connected and collective power with this collective response is going to be one of our superpowers as we go forward. There is no question in my mind that that's going to be what we have as a strong thing to lean on to. And here's the other cool thing about it. And I thought about this over the weekend. You get involved with an organization and you're helping that organization grow and foster and help other people. You are then going to have the ability firsthand to go to people in your community and say, hey, I'm doing this over here and I want to get you involved. That because you've got credibility. of working with the local organization that's doing local things. That's where you're going to have an additional amount of strength that comes from being involved. It's not just what it does for you, but it's what you can then pass on to other people that you know need help. They may not be politically active or a strong political voice or any of those things, but that local organization, the rewards that will be reaped for that person will be strong. So I have to keep leaning into this, guys, because I believe in it, and I want you guys to be able to be participants in it as well. And as we come to the end of the show, as always, what am I going to say? Guys, take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Are you tired of talking to yourself? We can get you an audience on the radio. You can produce and host your own radio show on one of our 2 stations. Please call 773-792-1121. That's 773-792-1121 and ask for Mark. Limited space available.
WCPT Replay.
We have our good friend Tom Hartman on the line.
There's going to be a point when Trump exercises the powers of government. You know, Barack Obama described the Constitution as a negative Bill of Rights. What the Constitution does is it constrains our government from attacking us, essentially. But the power of government is awesome. I mean, it's frightening. It's the only government has the power to literally come to your home and grab you and put you in a cage for the rest of your